very good afternoon to you here from Souqnews Television. Welcome to the World News. My name is Grace Komalafe. And first, we'll bring you the headlines. Federal government debt to electricity generation companies reaches nearly 5.2 trillion naira. Niger's oil declines in June as global crude oil prices fall due to market volatility. Morocco's central bank explores use of its own digital currency for payments. And lastly, United Kingdom gives final approval for construction of nuclear power plants. Thank you for joining us on the World News this afternoon. Now we'll bring you the news in details. The federal government's total financial obligations to electricity generation company GENCOS reaches nearly 5.2 trillion naira by mid-2025. The sum includes 1.2 trillion naira from the first half of this year, plus 2 trillion naira in other legacy debts, and an additional 2 trillion naira from 2024. This significant burden poses critical challenges for the nation's power sector stability and operations. GENCOS recently addressed reports that the federal government might take on new subsidies. These were granted by the Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission, EERC, after it cut electricity tariffs for customers from 209 naira to 160 naira per kilowatt. This EERC decision sparks considerable concerns among generating companies, as it could set a difficult precedent for other states nationwide. A key worry is the EERC's tariff order allocates only 45 naira for generation cost out of the total 112 naira charges. This discrepancy highlights a broader challenge in decentralization of power to state governments. Such a situation could complicate efforts to ensure consistent and economically viable power generation costs across the country, affecting energy supply and investment outlook. And let's return to revenue. Niger's oil revenue experienced a decline in June as global crude oil prices faced significant downturns. Revenue decreased to 4.57 trillion naira in June, representing a 23.9% drop from the 6 trillion naira recorded in May. This downturn signals a challenging period for the nation's primary income source, directly impacting national earnings and budgets. The drop in oil prices is largely attributed to increased volatility in global oil markets. This instability stems from ongoing geopolitical tensions in key regions and fluctuating demand from Asia markets. Uncertainty surrounding potential production cuts by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies also contributed to the price reduction, influencing investor confidence in the sector. And in the economic news, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, recently unveiled its rebased gross domestic product, GDP, estimates. Nigeria's nominal GDP now stands at 378.2 trillion naira, approximately $243 billion, as of 2024. This figure reflects an 18.30% year-on-year increase in nominal terms, indicating significant shifts in the nation's economic structure. Following this rebasing, Nigeria is now Africa's fourth largest economy. It is positioned after South Africa with its $410.34 billion GDP, Egypt at $347.34 billion, and Algeria at $268.89 billion. The Nigerian economy also recorded a growth rate of 3.13% in the first quarter of 2025, signaling continued expansion. These new outcomes accurately reflect changes in the country's economic reality. NBC, also advised against politicizing these figures, stressing their importance for accurate economic planning. The rebased GDP provides a clearer and more current picture of Nigeria's economic landscape, essentially for local and international analysis. And next is the Nigerian Customs, the Nigerian Customs Service, NCS, Federal Operations Unit, FOU Zone A, Ikeja, recently announced a significant interception of contraband goods. These items, valued at over 1.78 billion naira, were seized across the southwest region within a 45-day period. This operation underscores ongoing efforts to curb illegal trade and protect local industries from unfair competition and illicit activities. Among the seized items were 6 trucks loaded of 50-kilogram bags of rice, 304 kilograms of cannabis, sativa, commonly known as Indian hemp, and 7,900 liters of premium motor spirit, PMS. Also intercepted was 140-foot container filled with used tires, among other illegal materials. This seizure occurred between June 3rd and July 18th, 2025, highlighting persistent attempts by smugglers. A total of 9 suspects were arrested in connection with these seizures. These operations were driven by intelligence gathering, indicating sophisticated enforcement strategies. The successful interceptions demonstrate improved coordination in the fight against smuggling. These reinforcing the border security and protects the nation's economy from illegal imports, contributing to national safety and economic stability. And away from that, domestic airlines in Nigeria collectively refunded over 1 billion naira to 5,285 passengers during the second quarter of this year. Data revealed that precisely 1.8 billion naira was reimbursed to passengers between April and June 2025. This disclosure highlights the ongoing regulatory oversight within the Nigerian civil aviation sector. These refund figures underscore continuous effort to ensure that airlines comply with passenger protection obligations, especially in cases of flight disruptions. This development follows repeated clarifications that while flight cancellations may entitle passengers to refunds or compensation, these outcomes are governed by specific conditions. These conditions are clearly outlined in Nigeria's civil aviation regulations, particularly Part 19 of the NCAA Regulations 2023. Air travelers are strongly encouraged to familiarize themselves with Nigeria's civil aviation regulations. This understanding is crucial for passengers to better grasp their rights and responsibilities when they encounter flight disruptions, such as delays or cancellations. This proactive approach aims to foster transparency and accountability within the domestic airline sector, promoting fairer treatment for all passengers and enhancing confidence in air travel services across the country. And I will take a break. We'll be returning with more stories. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. It's still the world news, and now we pick up from Africa. Morocco's central bank is actively exploring the potential use of its own digital currency for both peer-to-peer and international payments. This move signals a forward-looking approach to modernizing the nation's financial system. A central bank digital currency, CBDC, is directly controlled by the central bank, a key difference from cryptocurrencies, which are typically decentralized and not subject to central authorities. Cryptocurrencies have been banned in Morocco since 2017. Despite this prohibition, the public has continued to use them in an unregulated manner, often circumventing existing restrictions. This unofficial usage underscores the demand for digital payment solutions and likely motivates the central bank's exploration of a regulated alternative that can offer security and control. The bank has been collaborating with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank to assess the payment system impacts of its central bank digital currency. Furthermore, the Moroccan Central Bank, alongside its Egyptian counterpart and the World Bank, is also exploring using the CBDC for cross-border transfers. This joint effort indicates a regional push towards advanced digital payment solutions, enhancing financial connectivity across the borders. And in energy market, oil prices declined for a third straight session on Tuesday. This downturn stems from concerns that an escalating trade conflict between major crude consumers, the United States and the European Union, will curb global fuel demand growth. Such a conflict is expected to reduce economic activity, directly impacting energy consumption and investor confidence in the oil market. Brent crude futures decreased 6%, 0.7%, settling at $68.2 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude traded at $66 a barrel, down to 6 cents, 0.9%. The active September contract was down 47 cents, 0.7% to $65.48 a barrel. The Trump administration set an August 1st deadline for countries to finalize trade deals or face steep tariffs. The European Union is now exploring broader countermeasures against the United States as prospects for an acceptable trade agreement with Washington fade. This indicates a looming dispute that could further destabilize global oil markets and economic forecasts. The United Kingdom government on Tuesday granted final approval for the new British nuclear power plants. This decision follows a significant agreement with investors aimed to bolster the nation's net zero target and strengthen energy security. The project, located in eastern England, is projected to cost around £38 billion, equivalent to $51 billion for its construction. Funding for this ambitious project will come from key partners including the Canadian Pension Fund, Lacasse, British gas owner Central, and Amber Infrastructure. The French energy giant EDF, this multi-stakeholder investment structure, underscores the substantial financial commitment required for such large-scale energy infrastructure, reflecting a shared vision for future power generation and climate objectives. Despite approval, the plant has faced financial uncertainty for over a decade, and it's not expected to generate electricity until the 2030s. The projected cost significantly exceeds earlier official estimates, campaigning worry that future and further overruns or delay could ultimately impact household utility bills, highlighting financial risk associated with major infrastructure development. I will move away from that story. In migration policy, Sweden is preparing to implement significant reforms to its single permit system for foreign workers. This move aims to align the nation's immigration policy with newly adopted European Union standards, making the country more attractive to global talent. These proposed changes represent a strategic effort to enhance Sweden's competitiveness in attracting skilled labor and expertise from abroad, addressing evolving economic needs. These reforms are slated to take effect on May 21, 2026. The changes are presently under review by the Swedish Parliament, forming a crucial part of Sweden's compliance with the EU's revised Single Permit Directive, adopted in 2024. This directive mandates member states to streamline procedures for non-EU nationals seeking to live and work within the European Union. The directive also emphasizes improving labor mobility across the bloc and strengthening legal safeguards for foreign workers by simplifying the application process and offering more. This initiative is expected to boost Sweden's economy by facilitating the entry of essential foreign professionals and contributing to diverse workflow development. And finally, in sport, Qatar has officially confirmed its engagement in dialogue with the International Olympic Committee, IOC, regarding a bid to host the 2026 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The strategic move underscores the nation's increasing ambition to solidify its position as a prominent global hub for major sporting events. Qatar has steadily built its profile by hosting various high-profile competitions. If the bid proves successful, Qatar would make history as the first Middle East nation to host the Olympics, building up its widely publicized organization of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Several nations are currently in discussions under the IOC's new, more flexible and less formal bidding process for host cities. This new approach allows for a more tailored and collaborative section. Doha previously expressed interest in hosting the 2016 and 2020 games, though this effort did not materialize. With significant enhanced infrastructure and extensive experience in organizing global sporting events, Qatar now aims to effectively demonstrate its readiness and regional leadership on the world stage. Their sustained interest reflects a long-term vision for international sports engagements. And that's the news this afternoon. We say many thanks for watching. Do not forget to follow us on all the social media platforms at Souqnews TV. My name is Grace Komalafe. Do have a good afternoon.